Hey guys, Danny Bossa from the TRT and Hormone Optimization YouTube channel. Joined today with my son.
TRT and Hormone Optimization channel. I was on the channel before, so I've been following the channel, watching it every now and then. So be sure to check them out.
Consider subscribing, hit that notification bell, and you'll be on your way.
17-year-old son, Luciano Bossa.
Hello.
How's it going?
Going pretty good.
That's good.
Pretty good.
Good. You know why I called you here for this video?
I don't know.
No?
I really don't know anything about this. So,
all right. So I wanted to get the perspective from a teenager, just to kind of make a little point, because I have a feeling, I think I know how you're going to answer. So you know what, like this TRT stuff, like what it is, like why I do it?
I mean, from what I understand, it's like people who have like a deficiency of like testosterone or to have like man boobs or like fucking, sorry for swearing, like different issues. And so they add testosterone to their body to like prevent those issues from happening, I guess.
You remember what I was like before I got on TRT?
Yeah.
What was I like?
Yo, he had like these big ass boobs, dude. Like they were like B cup, C cup, like
They were bad.
Yeah,
They were nasty.
it was pretty bad.
Yeah. And I was like super skinny and super like scrawny and like weak and pathetic, I guess.
If you want to put it that way.
Well, I can put it that way.
That to me, you're never pathetic.
Aww. So it's like I got a lot better since I started taking it, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. So yeah, so if you guys think that I had like the gyno thing before to stop during because of TRT, like no, I had it long before I started TRT, and it's pretty much almost gone at this point.
Wait, gyno is like the
man boob thing.
Okay.
Remember, like used to poke out on my shirt and stuff. That was like gross, right?
Okay.
But anyways, so you like testosterone is like that's kind of that hormone that makes men into men, right? And like women have estrogen, and that's
well, I mean, every individual has like both hormones.
Very good.
I mean, men have typically more
testosterone,
right, and females or women more estrogen, but
okay, so you learned about that in school. So you don't think like estrogen is like a woman hormone? It's
it's just a hormone. But I mean, women tend to have more.
Right.
Yeah.
And men will just have a lot more testosterone. So we just have it like in different ratios or different amounts.
Yeah. I mean, if we're talking in like the not politically correct way, then I would agree. Okay.
In the not politically correct way?
I mean, gender depends on your.
Okay, no. Well, let's rule out like transgender or sex changes or whatever else. That's a different. That'll be a different topic entirely. I'm talking like a man who was born male or a woman that was born female.
Sure.
Right.
Yeah.
So, the reason I wanted to ask you was, I mean, you're clearly a teenager, and I know you're a very high testosterone guy. Right?
Sure.
And then you got like a lot of your teenager friends and stuff like that. So if you think like your testosterone levels are really high right now, and then you also have some estrogen right now, right? And you feel pretty good, right?
Yeah.
So what happens is as you get older, sometimes those levels start to drop. Both testosterone and estrogen start to drop. And then guys will get on TRT to basically bring that testosterone level back up, which also brings the estrogen back up. But there's a lot of doctors out there that think that the estrogen is bad. So I have a list that I found here online. I just Googled, like I called it high estrogen symptoms, right? And one of them is water retention. You ever had water retention before?
Water retention?
Yeah. Any idea what that is?
Like feeling like bloated or
like bloated, like your face just gets all like puffy, neck gets puffy, and your ankles swell and your wrists swell. Or you ever get anything like that?
I've never had that.
Your friends ever getting like that?
I mean, like overweight?
No, not really overweight. It's just like
bloated.
Yeah, you kind of feel like you're holding water. It's like it's kind of You have to know how to spot it. So maybe that would be a tough one for you to figure out. Another one's belly fat. So they say estrogen causes belly fat, but I mean, you've got high testosterone and probably high estrogen too with the high testosterone, because that's what happens when you have more testosterone, more estrogen you're going to have, right?
Yeah.
So they say that the estrogen causes belly fat. Do you have like all your like high testosterone friends, like the jocks and stuff? Do they have like a lot of belly fat with their high testosterone?
I mean, not unless they're like football players playing defense, but
just like extra, like overweight, basically.
There's always some people that are overweight, but
most of your friends are kind of like skinny and lean and stuff,
yeah.
Right? So they have a high testosterone.
And most of my friends are like more athletic, so
they have high testosterone, high estrogen, but they're all athletic and fairly lean. Okay. And then they say like if you replace your testosterone and your estrogen goes up, because that's what happens when you replace testosterone, you wind up with low libido and ED. You know what ED is?
Like erectile dysfunction.
Yeah. Like, do your friends ever talk about like their high testosterone, high estrogen, how they all have like really bad libido and erectile dysfunction when they're teenagers? Because I remember when I was a teenager, I didn't have any of that.
No.
Not really, eh? Okay. They say that estrogen causes a loss of muscle mass. Do you find that when your friends all became teenagers, like they started losing a lot of muscle mass, or was it kind of the opposite? Like they actually gained muscle mass?
The opposite for sure.
Because you got like,
okay.
No, but I mean you're like what 6'1" now, 180 or so, 17, about that
approximately.
Okay. And another one is like remember talking about before, like the man boobs.
Oh yeah.
Do you have a lot of friends that like with their high estrogen and their high testosterone? Like, do they have like man boobs?
I have some friends that are a bit more overweight, but they're not like less manly. They're just
overweight.
Yeah.
Maybe like just eating too much or not active enough or that type of thing. Like your athletic friends or whatever, they don't have like man boobs, I guess.
Oh.
So the reason I ask this question is, so when you're a teen, you feel like pretty good, right? So you feel pretty good. And then what happens is, guys like you, they get older and then their testosterone starts to fall. So they go see a doctor to get some testosterone to bring the testosterone back up and bring the estrogen back up, because you want both of them, because you have both of them right now. But people think that the estrogen is going to cause all these things to happen. So my question to you is, like, do you find it odd that like you have high testosterone and estrogen right now? Because that's what happens. The higher the testosterone you're going to have, the more estrogen you're going to have. It's just the way it works. Do you find it odd that, like, do you have to like take any pills to like block your estrogen, or do your friends have to block their estrogen?
No.
So would you find it weird that if your levels went down and then later on in life you decide, well, let me bring those levels back up to like, the levels I had when I was a teenager, would you find it odd that the estrogen would suddenly start causing all these issues when they never caused it as a teenager?
I don't know. Well, I'm not like, I don't do like a research on this, so I can't really give like an educated guess. But like, if your goal is to like feel like you did when you were a teenager when it comes to like manliness, then I don't really see the difference if like your estrogen is like equal or not equal, but what's the word?
Like a ratio? Like there's like a ratio between the two?
Yeah.
So like let's say you have, when you're a teenager, your testosterone's here and your estrogen is here, right?
Yeah.
And then you get to like your 40s and they drop, and the doctor puts you on testosterone and brings them right back to where they were before.
Wouldn't it be like unhealthy to like have a way higher level of testosterone than estrogen?
Yeah.
Because if your body is meant to like
have both,
at a certain ratio, then if you like messed up the ratio, wouldn't it like be bad for you?
It's funny. Have I ever explained that to you ever? but logically that kind of makes sense to you.
Yeah, I mean, from what I know, like I haven't read anything besides kind of my dad's videos when I hear him doing it over there and stuff.
Yeah, but how many of my videos do I even watch?
Not many.
Not many.
Not many.
Some son he is. So so the doctors that I deal with, they used to think that estrogen did all these bad things, and then they started doing all this research and stuff, and then they started saying, well, how come teenagers don't need to do this? And how come like naturally gifted athletes, like all the jocks at your school, how come they're not having to do that? So if they don't have to block estrogen at that age, like why is it that suddenly you become an adult and now estrogen suddenly does all this bad stuff? Like, how does that make any sense? So they stopped blocking it. And then the patients started reporting feeling more like they felt when they were a teen, like their libido came back and their ED went away and they're like losing fat, they're putting on muscle, like basically all the stuff that they had when they were a teenager, they were getting that back. But there's a lot of doctors who think that you have to block estrogen like all the time, like it's this bad thing and it's going to cause all these problems, but yet you don't have any of those problems. You're a teenager, none of your friends have those problems.
Okay,
so why would you? Like,
so basically,
the
goal is to feel like how you did when you were a teenager.
I mean, not necessarily a teenager,
but
like, if I mean, with
but
like the resources I have now and the libido I had when I was a teenager, I'd probably get into some nasty trouble. So that's probably not realistic. But let's say, I don't know, mid-20s, mid to late 20s.
Why did you have to put it that way?
I'm just saying, being honest.
Okay, so basically your goal is to feel like how you did when you were like in your 20s.
Yeah, late 20s.
When it comes to your manliness.
Late 20s. But even late 20s, I wasn't all that manly because I was probably already deficient at that point.
Well, in general, I mean.
Yeah.
And people, yeah, I don't really understand. Like, I mean, I understand like what your point is, but I don't see how it could be like countered. Right. Or
so basically they think, okay, well, the testosterone you had when you were a teen, that's great. The testosterone when you're older, that's great. The estrogen when you had when you were a teen, no problem. The estrogen when you have when you're adult suddenly causes the man boobs and the fat and the this and the ED and it's like, well, how come he doesn't have any of those problems when he's younger?
I haven't like researched it, but logically, like,
doesn't make any sense.
Yeah. And removing estrogen when your body, like, for thousands and hundreds of thousands, no, not hundreds of thousands, thousands of years has been meant to have a certain ratio of estrogen and testosterone. Then removing estrogen when you raise your testosterone or not maintaining the same
just
ratio,
lowering it or whatever. Yeah. Raising one and like lowering the other doesn't really make a lot of sense.
It's like you're like not even human at that point. You're just like a fucking
like, I get it. Okay. Makes sense. So yeah, I wanted to know because I argue with a lot of guys about this because I used to think like the estrogen did all this bad stuff. And for years I thought that. And then after that I started to learn and then I started saying, I don't think it does. And then I stopped blocking it and then all my problems went away. Like even like the man boob stuff. Remember when I started TRT, I still had it actually got worse. Remember like the first like 2 years, it was actually worse than it was. I don't know if you remember that. I was like blocking estrogen. And then when I stopped, that's when it started shrinking and shrinking and shrinking and shrinking.
I see.
Yeah. Which is like.
But is there a reason why doctors think like
misinformation, stupid studies that don't make any sense, stuff like, so estrogen is created by an enzyme called aromatase. Okay, and a typical man will convert about 3% of their testosterone into estrogen, but aromatase is found in fat cells. So if you take a guy who's like really fat, he's going to have a lot of aromatase. Okay, because it's found in fat cells. Now, if he has a lot of aromatase, that means he's going to have more testosterone that's going to convert into estrogen. Okay. So some of the silly studies out there is they look at a bunch of fat guys and they say, wow, these guys have high estrogen. So I guess, obesity is associated with high estrogen. So people out there will see that and say, oh, wow, I don't want to be fat, so I don't want high estrogen. And you're like, no, the fact that you were fat made it that you had more estrogen. It wasn't the estrogen that made you fat. It was being fat that made the estrogen.
So people think it's like the other way around.
Yeah, so they think, well, it's associated. So, well, if it's associated, I don't want the estrogen, so let me drop the estrogen, and then I won't be fat. Problem is, you do that, and you typically get fatter because the estrogen actually helps to lower the fat.
Oh, so basically, like when you're fat, there's an enzyme called aromatase,
yes.
which converts more testosterone into estrogen than, let's say, a lean person.
Exactly.
And then because of doctors will think like, or people will conduct studies saying like, oh well, being fat means more estrogen.
Right. So you have to lower your estrogen.
So you have to lower your estrogen.
Yeah. But then they do, and they don't lose any body fat, or they get more fat. So all the stuff that I read said that, well, if you don't block it and you keep this estrogen and you start eating better and you start being more active, the estrogen is actually going to help you burn this body fat. It's actually going to help your metabolism. It's actually going to make your heart stronger, your cardiovascular system stronger. It's going to make your bones stronger. And there's a ton of lists. So as soon as I started doing that, everything started to improve.
Okay, wait, but then if you let's say you're a person who's a bit fat, meaning you have more of the enzyme aromatase.
Mm-hmm.
If you add testosterone, wouldn't that like still increase the estrogen? But to add like a higher level than the typical person.
Okay, well, it depends. If the guy's obese, so if the guy's really obese and he has very low levels of testosterone and high levels of estrogen, it's because he just has a lot of his testosterone converting to estrogen. What he wants to do is not block estrogen because he really wants estrogen. He needs to try to get active, do some exercise, watch what he eats to lower his body fat. As he's lowering his body fat's going to go down. He's going to be converting less into this, and you'll wind up with more testosterone.
Oh, okay.
Okay, and eventually he'll be healthier. The estrogen is not causing him any harm. The lack of testosterone, mind you, because too much is converting, is not good. You want to have high levels.
But I have a question.
Yeah.
But then what would, like, okay, let's say you're fat, whatever, you have more testosterone converting into estrogen.
Mm-hmm.
Would it make a difference? Like, if you have more estrogen than like the average person, like, would it actually give you any effects at all? Or
what do you mean? If your levels of estrogen were higher than
average because of the enzyme, let's say.
If you have enough testosterone, then the answer is no. If you have low testosterone, it's the low testosterone that's going to cause you problems. As long as you have enough testosterone,
okay, so the
estrogen is irrelevant.
And you're sure about this?
Yeah.
How do you know? Just because I'm skeptical, I'm not just gonna like accept what my dad is saying.
Okay, so I used to block it. Tons of problems. I stopped blocking it, got better.
Okay, well.
Then I met a bunch of doctors, and they're like, hey, we have tens of thousands of patients. We used to block estrogen with all our patients, and we used to block it in ourselves. And then we tried this other way of not blocking it, and all our patients got better, and we got better. So now there's tens of thousands of patients, all these doctors, and then all my friends in that Facebook group thing I'm in, they're all not blocking it, and they all got better.
Have you ever heard of anybody who
didn't get better?
Yeah.
And they absolutely needed it? I haven't yet.
Okay.
I know of one doctor who has had to use it on a patient because the patient had an aromatase disorder.
Oh, okay.
Where crazy amounts of estrogen were being converted from the testosterone. Okay. Like he had a problem.
So that's like how many people have you do you talk to?
This would be one of every all the patients,
3,000,
all the doctors I know, and each one has like a couple thousand patients type thing, because it's like we're talking big places.
So
we're talking I know of one of all of those that has had to take it.
So it's so far really rare.
Yeah, very rare.
Okay,
but I argue with doctors online and patients that go to these doctors who tell all their patients, you all have to block estrogen, all of you. Everybody has to block estrogen if you're on testosterone. And that doesn't make sense because I'm like, but I want to feel the way I felt when I was a teenager. I didn't block my estrogen when I was a teenager. Why would I have to block it now?
Yeah.
I'm going to turn off my PC. So that's what I wanted to ask you. Do you think that makes sense?
From what I know, it doesn't make any sense.
Doesn't make any sense.
Because look, just ignore all the science, ignore everything.
Mm-hmm.
If like every single person who decides, okay, let's just stop like cutting off estrogen, and then they automatically get better, besides like 1 in every couple thousand, then how is it even a like discussion?
Agreed. The problem is that these doctors that do it, they only talk to other doctors that do it, and all their patients do it, and they're like, well, all our patients are fine, so this is what you have to do. But they've never tried doing it this other way, the right way.
So it's probably like a placebo effect. Like they think they're fine, but they haven't actually like...
They've never tried it. So I try to tell them like, well, if you would just try it this way and I can teach you how, and just give it the time for your body to adjust, you'll be like you were when you were a teenager, and you will be better.
So it's kind of like...
But they think that I'm nuts. And they,
the patients that cut off estrogen, let's say, like... just to think of an analogy, it would be like, okay, let's say I only eat carrots. It's the only vegetable I ever eat. And then one day, is that a vegetable?
Carrots?
Yeah?
Yeah.
Okay, just making sure. And then one day someone gives me like fucking potatoes, and then I try potatoes and I'm like, damn, that's way better. Like, does that make sense?
Not really.
No. Hold on. I have a point. It's like you don't know that's what's good if you haven't tried. Like
it's like saying ice cream is vanilla ice cream is the best. I know it's better than any other flavor. Well, have you ever tried chocolate?
Yeah,
no.
okay.
But I know that my way is better. Well, why don't you? And then they try chocolate and they say, "Oh shit,
yeah,
chocolate's better."
That's what I was trying to say.
Okay. So I'm trying to convince some of these doctors to say, "Can you open your mind and try it this way?" Because everybody I know used to do it your way. Now we're doing it this way, and we can see that this way is better every single time. It's always better. But you guys are still stuck over here, and you don't want to try this. You've only tried vanilla. We've tried vanilla and chocolate just use the analogy, is being better 10 times out of 10.
I feel like it's just the placebo effect. Like, people think that they feel better. Or like they're given stuff, and so they think, okay, let me very carefully like analyze myself. I'm like, oh yeah, I do feel a bit better, and then I kind of like
there's a lot of people that it's a placebo effect because they're taking such a tiny dose of the stuff that blocks estrogen that it really doesn't do anything. Okay. But they think they need it, but it's like you could be not taking it and you wouldn't even tell.
And then that like messes up the stats, let's say.
Exactly.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right, I understand.
So anyways, that's what I wanted to ask you. Cool. So there you have it, guys. Teenager doesn't block estrogen. His friends don't block estrogen. This guy with his shirt off looks better than all of you, and myself included. So
what do you mean?
Well, you're a freaking teenager. You're like lean and athletic, and your skin is amazing, and you're like, look at me. Like, I want to have your hormones, But anyways, whatever. So I just thought of making this video. I wanted to have my son in the video too, but I think I got my point across. So to any of you guys thinking that you need to block estrogen, just ask yourself that one question. Why is it that you never needed to block it when you were a teen? Ever.
Oh, wait. I have something to add.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. If you like disagree with what he said, instead of just like being an idiot and like wasting all of his time, because my dad's like always arguing with people, you should just find like a good like actual evidence and then show him instead of because he's open-minded. I know my dad. He's open-minded. If you actually show him like proof that what he's saying doesn't make any sense, then actually
here's how you become open-minded. You have two alternatives, right? You can either block it or you don't block it, right? Those are your two choices. I've tried both of those. Every single doctor I know has tried both of them, and the patients have tried both. And they're all saying, this way's better. We've tried both.
Yeah, but this is just what you're telling me. Maybe there's like some guy online who's like a genius and just knows no, what you're saying is false. Like all I'm saying is like if there's evidence that what he's saying is false, just show him the evidence instead of like.
Okay, but then would that mean like, so that would have to mean that all the doctors I talked to would all be lying, and then all the patients that are doing better are actually, it's all in their head. None of them are doing better. We're talking like tens of thousands of people that think they're doing better, but they're actually doing worse.
Okay.
Would that kind of make sense?
Yeah, I guess you're.
And do you think that if blocking it made me feel better, wouldn't I just go back to blocking it? And like all those doctors and all the patients, if they tried both and they say, you know what, we're getting way better results when we block it, they would all go back to blocking it.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
But some of these doctors are so stuck on we need to block it.
Because most of the people who block it haven't actually tried the other.
Yeah. So if you want to be open-minded, you try the other way, you learn how to do the other way, and then you really test out both, and then you decide.
Yeah. So it's like you said with like ice cream and chocolate. Like people who are blocking it most likely haven't tried chocolate.
Yeah.
Okay.
So that, you know, I'm at the point that all the guys that I talk to that used to take it and now they don't, I asked them like, would you ever go back to taking it? They're like, hell no. Like I sure as hell wouldn't. Every doctor I know that has done both, they'll never go back to doing this, like ever. Like ever. You should see some of the emails I got, guys that are like, man, I had this issue. I stopped blocking my estrogen and literally 3 months later, all my issues are gone.
Damn.
Are you gonna tell them like, would you start taking it again? Like, what, are you stupid? Like, no, I finally feel better. I finally feel like I was when I was a teen. But some of these doctors that I argue with, they're like, no, you have to, because otherwise all these things are going to happen. I'm like, well, if all these things are going to happen, how come it's not happening to all of us? Like,
not me.
It doesn't happen to any of us. None of us are having any of these issues you're talking about. Yeah. If we did, we'd be blocking estrogen also. Yeah. We'd say, hey, we tried this. We're getting these issues. So we should go back to doing what we were doing before. But we're all feeling better like that. All of us. So why? So we're telling like, hey, try this way, and I'm telling you, it's better. But they're just so stuck on no, we can't because I'm telling you it's going to happen. It's going to happen, and it's like you're just like scratching your head and like, can you come over here and just take a look for yourself? Because we've been where you are, and I'm telling you, you need to come and see this. It's frustrating. So I've always thought about it. The question I always wind up asking them is, how come you never had to block estrogen when you were a teen?
I have a question. This is gonna sound like probably really dumb, but let's say I'm like addicted to crack, and I love crack, and I'm like, yo, you should come here and try crack. Like being sober is not good. You should try crack. But like, and you think it's like whatever. You know. Okay,
you feel better when you're on crack.
You feel better when you're on crack, but like. Is there a way that not blocking out estrogen could affect you like long term?
Okay, well, let's use this. If you are blocking it and you have more fat and you have erectile dysfunction and you have poor libido and all these types of things, and you're basically taking a drug to make that process stop, right? You're taking a drug to prevent testosterone from converting into. You're taking a drug that's basically tricking the body into stopping to do something it's been designed to do in nature. And then if you stop taking that drug and you let the body do what it's designed to do, then everybody gets better and their health improves. When you're taking crack, on the other hand, yes, you feel good. But as you continue taking the crack, after a while, it's pretty clear that your health is deteriorating very quickly. Like you can look at a crack addict and you know that he's a crack addict, right? So it's not quite the same thing.
Yeah. I don't really have any like oppositions at this point.
Okay, so
no, wait. Please don't roast me. I don't know anything. I'm just like...
He had no idea. I basically just brought my laptop out and I said, come and sit down. I'm going to ask you a question and just answer what you know and whatever else. I just wanted him to just logically say like, yeah, I don't have to do any of this stuff as a team. My friends don't have to do any of this stuff as a team. So why would I have to do that when I get older? It doesn't make any sense. Because I don't think it makes any sense. That's it. Good job. Okay, guys. That's it. Have a good one. Bye.
Alright guys, well do this next, click on one of these thumbnails to learn a ton more about TRT and hormone optimization. Thanks.